94.3 Radio 1.
This is officially one of my most favorite segments because we tell stories of ordinary people doing extraordinary things. And today I'm introducing you to a 70-odd-year-old solo traveler from Bengaluru who has done everything right from being a full-time professor to running a think tank to traveling to being the advisor to the Indian Prime Minister on energy security issues to being a member of the National Security Advisory Board. And there's just too many things she's done. So let's just get into a conversation with her. And it's a real pleasure to speak with Sudha Mahalingam. Firstly, thank you for joining us. It's a real pleasure to chat with you. How are you doing today?
Thank you, Kay. It's a pleasure to chat with you as well. And I hope we are going to have fun in the next few minutes.
What fascinates me is that in a time like this, I mean, of course, before COVID, you've traveled vastly and you've published over 400 travel logs and more than 1,000 photographs in national and international publications. Travel seems to be your top love. Talk to me about where the bug first bit you. And also, number two, what's the most exciting place you've been hands down?
Okay, travel has always been a fascination, but when I was young, that is in the previous century, at that time, travel was very expensive and we couldn't afford. In fact, a plane ticket cost 3 months' salary or something at one point. So I used to look at all those colorful pictures in Life, Span and such magazines and lust after those places. And I didn't realize I would end up going to these places. So that was how my fascination with travel started. Right. Then my mother had always advised me that if you want to do something in life, do it while you have every other responsibility as well. Because if you're going to wait to finish something and start, it's never going to happen. It's just like if you want to bathe in the sea, plunge in. You can't wait for the waves to subside. So that's when, I did marry a man who had 16 postings in the 45 years I've been married to him.
Wow.
And so I've lived in 16 places. I moved with him wherever he went, changed jobs, but that was not enough for me. I wanted to go and see the exciting, exotic, extraordinary places out there.
Right.
And so as long as I was a journalist, I couldn't do that. It was only nearby places. But the moment I waded into energy research at some point in my life, and that took me places because there were very few people doing energy research at that time. I started getting conference invites, and that's how my travel exploded.
Awesome. That's so cool to hear. So, of course, like you said, you're typically an energy economist
yes.
in a lot of ways. You didn't answer my question about what's the most exciting place on your list.
Yeah, sure. I think the most exciting place for me was Kyrgyzstan. Because I landed for the experience. I landed in the late evening when it was already dark. I didn't know the language. I didn't know anyone there. And there were just 2 taxis outside the airport. And I had to take one of them and travel the next 6 to 7 hours to Ishikul, which was my destination. I just jumped in and, I did the trip. It was fantastic.
You did that trip solo?
Yes. I did that trip solo. I was in a conference in Tashkent, and from there I went to Kyrgyzstan, that is Bishkek. The flight was late by 3-4 hours, so I landed quite late, and I just took a taxi from there, and from then on, it was paradise which unfolded. I loved it.
Yeah. Awesome. That's so great to hear. In millennial lingo term, they would say you're living your best life. And what I want to do is actually focus on, how you manage to balance everything, because that's one that a lot of people can't crack. But, a lot of people, once they reach a certain age, feel the burden of responsibility in their life, right? And when I say that, it's a matter of, one, financial responsibility. Number two, you've got maybe family responsibility and whatnot. Have you counted, by the way, how many countries you've traveled to?
Yes, I did. That's how it appeared. 66. Yes.
66. Okay, cool. So how does one balance it? So that, what's the trick? What's the secret to you balancing everything?
I think if you love doing something, you'll always find time to do it. See, my children were growing up when I was traveling, particularly the younger one. And I realized that if you leave them and go, they will manage willy-nilly. He was only 4 years old when I took my 32-day trekking trip to Kailash Mansarovar.
Wow.
And when he said bye and he slept with my sari under his pillow. But when I came back, he was all right. And then they got used to the fact that Amma will go out from time to time. And my husband was very supportive. For me, the household was running on its own because I had domestic help. I didn't have any relatives to bring up my children or to help me with anything, but I had domestic help. And so household was running smoothly. Office, I've been very lucky to have an office environment where I could take time off from conferences. If I went for a 3-day conference, I could always add maybe 5 days, 10 days, sometimes even a whole month to my trip, which enabled me to see many places. That's how I traveled.
Beautiful. Sounds so cool. And on that note, I'm sure you have ample number of stories which I want to get to in a bit. But I just want to really dial back. You said that you have a very supportive partner in your life, right? Your husband has been a great, let's just say partner in helping you, doing all of this. So is that really that important a thing? So that, like, for people out there who are listening to this, does that play a vital role in making all of these, trips and all this traveling and, not being around for a while? Does that really help?
Okay, I think that's a very, very important question you've asked me. Marriage is something where you take space. You're never given space. Any partnership is where you take your space. So once you demonstrate to your partner or spouse that this is what I want to do, they are not going to stop you from doing that, because by doing what you love most, you're also doing other things like a wife, mother, family woman. I can do all that. Even as a professional, I can do all that very happily.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I would have been grumpy and doing part of the thing. So he realized that if I had to be good at everything, I should be, I should do all the things that I always love to do. That's how it happened. My husband has always been a traditional Indian male, but he changed along the way because I took my space.
That is such an important point you brought up, because I'm engaged. I am very soon to be married. So hearing you say this is scaring me a little bit.
No, you should take your space in the marriage.
I'm really curious, do you have one insane story you can tell us that happened over the last 30 years of your travel, visiting 66 countries? What's one mad story you'll never forget that's always on the tip of your tongue?
Yeah, lots of mad stories. Actually, my book, The Travel Gods Must Be Crazy, is a collection of all my travel misadventures.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Many misadventures. It has 26 stories. All of them are misadventures. But if you want me to single out one, I would say that one full moon night, I was caught alone with a stranger in a fully mined road in Kashmir. I think that would have been a scary, experience for anyone. But I wasn't even conscious of the fear element at that time, and that story is there in my book. But I managed to get out of the situation basically.
How did you get stuck there, by the way, in the first place?
I went to Amarnath Yatra, and on the way back, somebody told me there is another route through Baltal. You take that route. It's a shorter one. So I took that shorter route, and it so happened on that route, there were terrorists active. I saw houses burning on the hillside. And the person to whom I gave a lift in my taxi was an army captain.
Right.
And that is how I was able to, pass through that area, because there were so many security checks.
Right.
The next day, the car in which I went to the airport was fired at. Bullets were flying on all sides, and I still managed to reach the airport. See, I'm not easily scared of anything. I only look at the thrill. Maybe looking back, it was foolish, but well, I did it.
There's a fine line, isn't there? There's a fine line. Oh, wow. That's really, really cool. So, wow. So you're saying the fact that you picked up an army personnel, just giving them a ride, that's what kind of got you through mainly? Is that right?
Yes. There were many places where there were barricades and they wouldn't allow us in, but he flashed his ID. And he never told me his name. He never told me his identity, nothing. I got
Are
to
you
know
in
it
touch with
20
him? I'm
years.
curious to know. Are you still in touch?
Yes, 20 years later, he called me. And, that's when I realized, I found out from him. We had lunch one day and he told me the entire story. He didn't want to disclose his identity because that is how he kept safe in the valley.
Ah, wow. That must have been quite a meeting after 20 years, right?
Yes.
Wow,
That's
I
right.
can only imagine. Tell me the name of the book one more time, Sudha, please.
This is called The Travel Gods Must Be Crazy, published by Penguin Random House in 2019, 2 years
Fantastic.
ago. It's already going for a reprint now.
But I want to ask you about, this whole wanderlust space that we are stuck in. You don't travel physically. Rather, we look at, some social media of someone going somewhere and, we're like, hey, I wish I could do that. Right. And like you started this conversation, you told me that you will make time for the things that are important to you. Traveling was important to you. You actively
Right.
made time for it. So, especially in a time like this, Sudha, I'm referring to pandemic times, how does one really, do what you did, right? If there's a young woman out there, maybe a 20-year-old Sudha for that matter, who needs a little bit of inspiration, what would you say to her?
I think it's always possible in any situation. Like even during the pandemic, I must have done a dozen driving trips, all the way from Bangalore to Goa, Bangalore to Hampi, and then I went to Ooty, I went to Valparai. Last week I was in Ooty again, and before that I was in Coorg. So it's possible for you to drive, and many of these homestays are quite safe. They do observe strict discipline, and so it's possible for you to locate those trips that can still be done during COVID times. But now I'm planning my next trip. Maybe I'm just looking at Namibia before I
Wow.
started this conversation. And I'll be going to Patagonia later in December, and also to Colombia. Maybe other places subsequently. Wherever it's opened up, I'll go. Definitely. I'm not going to, make COVID hold me back from my dream. I dream big and I will realize my dream if that's how I live.
Beautiful. I have a question for you though. Like, when people hear travel, they often think of expense, right? It's a big expense. How does someone like you manage with all of that? Has it just been
See,
that you've
for
been
me,
blessed in a fortunate family, or how do you do it?
no, I come from a very middle class family. In fact, the only condition my husband put was that I shouldn't be spending family money on travel. That's how, it so happened when I started doing energy research. They would invite me to conferences, pay for my travel, pay for my visa, pay for my stay for 3 days or something. But after that, whatever I extend, that would be at my expense, which was not much. And I have no qualms about moving from Hilton in Athens to straight to a hostel where I
Awesome.
shared a dorm with three other girls. So, you should be able to adjust to different kind of environments.
Yeah.
And I'm quite okay with hardship travel. I'm not at all. I don't balk at lack of comfort. Last trip was to Madagascar, where I traveled on a boat to a place called Singi for 3 days. The boat didn't have a toilet.
Oh wow. Okay.
So how much harder can it get?
I want to close out our conversation by saying that your stories are unbelievable. You seem like a person who's just so full of life. But my last little question to you is, what would be the little piece of advice you would give to your younger self?
Yeah, do it. Dream big, even bigger. Whatever you want to do it now. Life is here and now. Life is not somewhere in the distant future. That's what I would tell young people who, whatever they want to do, it might not be travel, it might be something else, but do it now. You don't know what the future holds for you. That's the advice I would give.
To your younger self.
Yes, to my younger self also.
Fantastic.
Because I
So,
started traveling rather late in my 40s. So now if I were younger, I would start traveling even earlier, 25, 30, and do all the other places that I've always wanted to do.
Sudha, I can't tell you, hearing your story, listening to you speak has been really, really wonderful, to say the least. I wish you all the very best, and I hope to see more articles, more pictures. I hope to see, you going to wherever it is that you want to, Madagascar, I don't know, Namibia, the Nile River, wherever. Antarctica. I hope you go to all of those places. And thank you so much. I don't think you realize, just by telling your story, I think you provide so much inspiration to a lot of young people out there. Wishing you only the best.
Thank you, Kay. It was a pleasure talking.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell icon so you never miss a video from Radio 1.